Welcome to the Mood Ring Part 2, Coding Your Ring. In this video, we're going to complete Challenge 10. Challenge 10 has a couple of new ideas for us. First, we're going to learn how to use a while control statement. In addition, we're going to learn how to make a decision with an if-then statement. So, I'm eager to get started on this program with you. Pause the video and take a moment to navigate to Challenge 10. I'll see you there. Challenge 10. Let's read the program specification to find out what we need to do to accomplish this challenge. Use a while loop to continuously monitor temperature. Include an if conditional statement using appropriate temperatures to display the following text in LED color: cool and blue, just right, and green, hot, and red. Well, let's think about what this program specification is asking us, and let's try to break it down into small chunks that we can understand, and then we'll assemble it all together into our program. Many times, taking a big problem and separating it down into simpler tasks and solving those tasks is an easier approach to writing a program. So let's go back and reread this time, trying to separate the tasks. It says use a while loop to continuously monitor temperature. Well, we've done something pretty similar to that back in Challenge 9. In Challenge 9, we used a for loop. And that's a different kind of control structure, but a control structure nonetheless, to monitor temperature. So we know how to do that to an extent. To include an if conditional statement, that is not anything we've done. So that's something new we're going to have to learn how to do. But then it says to display a following text message and set an LED color. We know how to do that. We've done both those tasks in several previous challenges. So let's get started by accomplishing that first task, which is to use a control statement to continuously monitor temperature. Once we've done that, then we'll worry about the if statement, and then we'll worry about adding the text and the color. But for right now, what I'm going to do is I want to copy our previous program and paste it into our new program. The TI Nspire CX2 is very good at cutting and pasting. So let's do that now. To do this, I'm going to navigate back to the challenge that has my code. To do that, I'll use the Control and touchpad to the left once, Control touchpad twice, and again, and again. And this takes me to Challenge 9. Now, in Challenge 9, I wrote a program that constructed a temperature object, that's right here, and then I used a for loop to monitor temperature 10 times, and I did that with my temperature method, returning the value to the variable t, constructing an appropriate temperature output string and displaying it on the calculator screen, and then sleeping for 2 seconds. So I want to copy this whole thing. To do this now, this is a new skill that we'll practice together. Use your trackpad and navigate up to the beginning of the import statement. Next, use your Shift key and click down. So Shift, click down, and when you do this, you'll notice that it begins to use a blue selection to highlight the code. So continue clicking down until all of the code has been selected. Press Ctrl C to copy. Once you have that finished, let's navigate to the new editor on Challenge 10. To do that, I'll press Control, touchpad to the right, touchpad to the right, Control, touchpad to the right, and again, and again, and here I am. So now I'll position my cursor up at the very tippy top, and I will use my paste key. My paste key is just like on a PC, and it's Control and the letter V, Control V. There it is right there. Let's pause the video now, and you take a moment to try to paste your code into page 1.23. I'll give you a moment now to do that. Pause your video, and when you're finished, resume the video and we'll continue coding. Now that you have successfully copied the code from Challenge 9 and pasted it into Challenge 10, let's clean up the code a little bit. To do this, I'm going to use my cursor and delete out a number of the statements that are no longer needed. So for example, I'm just going to use my cursor to backspace to the end of this comment line, and then I'll use my delete key to delete that out. So we kind of know what that comment was telling us from our previous program, and I'm just going to kind of clean it up here just a little bit just to make things look nice. Then let's go ahead and go up again, and I'll go to the end of this because we're no longer going to use a for loop. Remember, we're going to use a while loop, so I'll delete that out. And then there's also a couple of comments down there at the bottom, and we can just leave those. So there, that kind of shows me what I have here. That's good. Now it's this for control statement that we need to exchange with the while statement, which our program specification requested. So I'm going to go to the end of that statement and put my cursor just to the right of the colon symbol. Now, before we do that, let's notice the tab. Remember we talked about this tab in the previous video and how that designates that these statements right here are inside of this control structure that loops 10 times. And so this tab tells me that 10 times I'm going to read the temperature measurement. I'm going to then display that measurement with an appropriate prompt, and I'm going to wait 2 seconds. I'm going to do that 10 times, and at the end of 10 times it's going to automatically exit the program. I'm going to use a different control statement now. So to do that, I'm going to use my cursor right here and go to just to the right of the colon there, and I'm going to use my delete key, which deletes out all those characters. And I'm going to keep my cursor right there at the beginning of that line. Now I'll go to Menu, and I'm going to choose Hub number 8, and here I see Commands number 5, and we've been here before. This is where we got sleep and text at. This time, however, I'm interested in number 4, so I'm going to choose 4 and paste that in. I'm going to go ahead and press the delete key to get rid of those. And it's also produced an extra line feed. I'm going to delete that. So again, I'm just cleaning up my code. Keeping your code clean helps it to be readable. So now let's look at what this program statement is telling us. First off, it's saying while. So while is a control statement that does the statement commands within the block as long as this portion is true. So what does it mean for this portion to be true? Well, right here is something called an operator, and this operator has an exclamation point and an equal symbol. This means not equal to. So not equal to. So for example, 2 is not equal to 3. That's a true statement. 2 is not equal to 3. And so this getKey is a function that returns which key has been most recently pressed. So for example, if I press the letter B, getKey will return, in quotes, the letter B. If I press the number 1, getKey will return, in quotes, the number 1. If I press the escape key, getKey will return, in quotes, the 3 letters ESC. Now notice what I've done is I've taken getKey, I've used this not equals, and I'm saying, is it not equal to ESC? All right, well this is kind of a complicated statement. Let's try to get our heads wrapped around what this is saying. So let's just imagine that I press the number 1. getKey returns, in quotes, the number 1. And then this comparison right here says, is the number 1 not equal to escape? Well, you know, that's actually true. Number 1 is not equal to escape. So what that means is it's going to execute these 3 statements. These 3 statements will actually be run. Let's say I press the number 2. getKey returns the number 2 in quotes, and it says, is the number 2 not equal to escape? Well, you know, that's actually true also. The number 2 is not equal to the 3 letters ESC. But now, imagine I press the ESC key. getKey will return, in quotes, the 3 letters ESC. And now it's going to say, is ESC not equal to ESC? Now think about this. This is actually a false statement because ESC equals ESC. They are the same. And so not equals turns that thinking around, it makes it false. So as soon as I press the ESC key, this statement right here evaluates to false. As soon as it evaluates to false, the while control statement exits. And so what that means is this will run as long as I don't press the escape key. As soon as I press the escape key, this is going to stop. So remember our for loop, it did it 10 times and stopped automatically. So that was a definite stop. We knew it was going to stop after 10 times. This is an indefinite stop. In other words, I can let this go for as long as I want. It could run for 5 days if I wanted to. It will only stop when I press the escape key. So this is kind of nice. This is part of developing a user interface. We're designing this in a way that we want the user to interact with our program to be able to run this as long as they choose. All they have to know is press escape to quit. All right, good. Well, that was some kind of, we had to do some thinking there to get that figured out, didn't we? Okay, the next thing I want to do is I want to bring my cursor down here to sleep, and I want to change that sleep from 2 seconds to 1 second. So position your cursor just to the right of the number 2, backspace, and put in 1. Okay. All right, well, I think we're ready. We've got this kind of where we want it. Let's review what we have. Right here, we've constructed my temperature object. The while getKey not equal to escape statement is going to do everything that's tabbed in until I press the escape key. What's it going to do? Well, it's going to return the temperature into the variable name T. It's going to display on the screen temperature equals variable name T. It's going to take the contents and put that in there. It's going to add to it the unit degrees centigrade, and it's going to print it on the left-hand side of our screen. Then it's going to wait for a second. All right, good. Well, let's give this a try. Remember how to run this? I think you do. Let's try it. Arr! Now, notice that this is updating the temperature every 1 second, and so as I pinch this, the blood flow from my finger is warming up the temperature sensor, and you can see the temperature is responding and rising. And I'll let go of it and maybe wave it in the air a little bit, and you can see that it's beginning to drop. Okay, great. Well, this works the way that I think. Now let's test my getKey. So let's say I'm over here, here's my cursor, and let's say I press the the number 0. Let's see if that makes it quit. No, that didn't do it. It still says running up here. Let's try the letter E. Surely that will stop it. No, that didn't stop it. Well, remember my program said ESC, so let's see if ESC stops it. I'll press ESC. Sure enough, check it out. It says finished. It did stop it. So now I press the enter key and it goes back to the shell. Now I've done the first part of the specification. I've kind of divided my program up into little chunks, and I said let's just get the while statement working, and that's what we've done. Perfect. Well, there's a lot to do here and a lot to think about, so let's pause our video now and resume once you have this running the way that I just demonstrated mine. Check that it can run until you press the escape key. When you have that working, resume the video, and we will then go to our next task of inserting our decision of if-then. Welcome back. Now that you have copied your code from Challenge 9 into Challenge 10, and you have modified it to solve the first problem of changing the for loop into a while loop, now let's go ahead and modify the code to add our first decision. To do that, I'm going to go to the end of my code just to the right of sleep, and I'll press the enter key to go to the next line. Notice that I am still within the indented structure of the while, which means that this will be executed through every loop. Choose the menu key and number 4, built-ins. Choose number 2, control, and number 1, if. The highlighted Boolean expression is where we type in the clause that will tell me whether this decision will be executed or not. To do this, I want to decide if the temperature is less than 20 degrees centigrade. If it is, I want to display the appropriate message and turn on the color LED. So let's do this thing. I'll choose my variable that holds the temperature T, and now I'm going to use a symbol that tells me that the temperature is less than 20. You may not be familiar with this symbol of less than. It's similar to like an equals symbol, but it just means that it's less than instead of equal to. You'll learn more about this in other math classes. Okay, great. So I've completed that statement. Notice that I'm to the left of the colon, so I'll use my cursor touchpad once to the right to get outside the colon and then press enter. Now I need my text message. So I'm going to do menu and hub, and we've done this before. It's under commands, and number 2, text at. Okay, I need to make sure that I'm not going to print this on the same row as my temperature, which is up here at 7. So I want a different row. Let's just go right below it. Let's put in 8. Okay, I'll press tab now to enter my text. And here's where I want to put in it is cool, because 20 degrees is cooler than room temperature, which is about 23 degrees centigrade. So I'll go ahead and use a shift to give my first letter an uppercase, and T, and here's my space down here in the lower right, is space cool. All right, perfect. I'll press tab to go to the next, and I'll choose left alignment. We learned about this in a previous video that you can align in left, center, or right. I'm going to choose left, so I'll just press the enter key here. And now again, I'm inside of a quote and a parenthesis. I need to get outside, so I'll touchpad once to the right, twice, and press enter. Now I need to turn on the hub's color LED to the color suggested in the program description, which is blue for cool. To do that, I'll go to menu, I'll go to hub, and number 2, hub built-in devices, number 1, color output, and number 1, RGB. Great. Now remember, if it's going to be blue, I don't want any red. Press tab. I don't want any green. Press tab. And I want full on blue. Remember that 0 to 255? Okay. I'll press once to get out of the cursor and an enter key. Alright, well it looks like this particular decision has been made. So this code right here is an if statement, and it says if this expression t is less than 20, if that's true, then the code will be executed that's inside of this statement block. This is very similar to my while statement, where I used this expression to evaluate whether or not it was going to be executed or not. This was my control expression here for the while, and here it is for the if statement right here. Okay, so now notice that an additional tab has been entered into my code. So now I have a double tab here, and you can tell that because there are 4 diamonds. Remember, there's kind of 2 diamonds per tab. And so since it's double indented, that means that this code is only going to execute, these 2 statements right here are only going to execute when this if is true. If it's not true, I'm going to go to the line below and I'm going to backspace delete twice to get rid of that tab, to come out of that tab. Then this is what's going to execute. So this is kind of a tricky part of Python, is keeping these tabs straight. All right, well let's do this. Since I've already got this code written, let's just copy it. So to copy, remember we just practiced this skill, so I'm going to take my cursor just to the right of 255. I'll hold down my shift key and then just start tapping your selection to the left by using your touchpad. And so I'm going to go ahead and select all of this right here, and I'm going to press Control C for copy. Now notice that I copied that tab right there, so I need to get rid of this tab right here to keep it straight, so I'll delete that out. And now let's go ahead and paste using Control V. Alright, good, there it is. Perfect. Notice that it's tabbed into the same level right here. That's what I want. And now I need to change this expression, and I want it to be to catch this just if it's greater than or equal to 20. So to do that, I'll press the backspace right here, and that delete removes that, and I'll put in a different symbol. So here's another symbol that you may not be familiar with. This is the greater than or equals to, so I'll highlight that and press enter. So there's my greater than or equals to, and now I'll press my click to the right and press space. And now I'm going to use a Boolean operator, and what this is it's a fancy word that looks at 2 expressions at the same time, and it says if both are true, I'm going to use and, then the whole statement is true. So if A and B are both true, then the whole expression is true. So I'm just going to type in and, A, N, D. And when I do that, notice it turns blue. That means it's a special word in Python. So, and I'll press space here. And now I need another T. So I want T right here, T. And I want to check to see if it's less than 25 degrees. So I'm just kind of getting a range of temperatures here. So Control, and here's my less than right here, less than. Notice that these arrows kind of point opposite directions. When it points to the right, it's greater than. When it points to the left, it's less than. So here I'll put in my 25. Okay, so there's a good one right there. And I need to change my message, so I'm gonna use my touchpad to get just to the right space, and I'll backspace cool, and I'll put in it is just right. So there we go, just right. And for just right, I want the color to be green. So again, this is just editing, using the touchpad to get your cursor to where it needs to be. And I'll put in my 255, and I'll put my comma back in there and 0. Okay, so now it's RGB, so the G is 255. Okay, perfect. So let's do this and press enter. Now remember, we have this block of code stored in the memory here, so I can just paste this again, but to keep things aligned, I'm going to delete these two tabs right there. So I'm going to delete these two tabs, and I'm just going to paste this again. So that was Control and the letter V, so Control and letter V, and there it is. And now let's go back up and change this. So I'll use my touchpad up here, and I'm going to go and I'm going to change this to greater than 25. And so greater than or equal to 25 will catch all of these values. So Control equals, and I'm going to choose greater than or equal to, there it is right there, greater than or equal to 25. So notice that if it's less than 20, these statements execute. If it's greater than or equal to 20 and also less than 25, these will execute. If it's greater than or equal to 25, these will execute. So it's kind of this decision, three-way decision. Okay, good. Well, let's go ahead and change this right here to the appropriate message. So I'll take my touchpad and get myself right here to "it is cool," and I'm going to change it to "it is hot." So I'll delete that back, and I'll type in the new word hot, H-O-T. And for hot, I want it to be red. So again, I'll position my cursor to the right place. I'm going to turn off all of the blue, and I'll change the red from 0 to 255, and now then it'll be red. Okay, and I'll go ahead and get to the end of this, press enter, and I'm going to just clean up my code here so I can kind of understand it a little better here. So this is something called a decision tree. There are 3 different questions being asked here, and so the code kind of proceeds from top to bottom, evaluating each one of these and asking if it's true. If the statement is true, that code will execute. If the statement is false, it will be skipped. So let's say, for example, the temperature is 18 degrees. Well, it'll come in here and it'll ask the question, is 18 less than 20? Well, yeah, it is. 18 is less than 20. That's a true statement. So it will print, "it is cool," and turn on the blue LED. Then it'll come here and it'll say, is 18 greater than or equal to 20, and is 18 less than 25? And the answer to that is no, 18 is not greater than 20, nor is it less than 25. But remember it is less than 25, but remember the "and" has to be there. Both have to be true. So this will not execute because this evaluates to false. And similarly, is 18 greater than or equal to 25? No, that's false. That's not going to work. So this will not be executed either. So this looks to be just exactly what we want. Okay. Well, notice over here, I've got my temperature sensor plugged into N1, and I've got my sensor all set up. My hub is turned on. So let's give this a try. I'm going to press Control R and see if this works. So Control R. And there's my temperature, and there's my blue color, so it's nice and cool in my room this morning, and it's 18 degrees, and so I'm going to go ahead and try to warm this up, and what we should see is that at 20 degrees it should change the message and change the color. There it is, it's green, it's just right, and it should do this all the way up to 25. It should change it to red, and it'll also change the message to it's hot, and there it is. It's hot, and it's 25. So I'll let that go, and we'll let that cool off, and you can see as it cools down, it goes back through those decisions. Now remember that I made this so that it will exit with the escape key. So let's go ahead and try that. I'll press the escape to see if this works, and sure enough, it says finished. And if I press the enter, I return back to the shell. Okay, well, we did an awful lot here, and I want to give you plenty of time to get your code working. So pause your video now, and when you're finished getting this code working the way that I showed you over here, and you have it all working just so, then resume the video and we'll conclude. Welcome back. Well, this concludes Challenge 10. I hope that you've had a successful experience. And now we're ready for Challenge 11, coding the final mood ring. I'll see you there.